Well, good evening, everybody, and how are we all doing today? This is the Sunday live stream from the Veg Grower Podcast. It's our chance to chat about gardening, what's been happening through the week, and a subject up for discussion. This week, I'm asking you what you think your gardening trends are going to be for 2023. Bit of a prediction. I've got my own ideas, but we'll get into that in just a moment. First of all, let's see if anybody is out there. And straight away, Ballycillian Allotment Man, good evening. Looking forward to the ginger grow along. Indeed, that's coming up a little bit later on. Turbo Stream, good evening, Veg Podcasters. Good evening to you. And Turbo Stream feeling a lot better this week after last week's trip out to A&E. Only went because the 111 doctor suspected a TIA, which thankfully I didn't have. Having follow-ups with my GP. I'm glad you're okay, Turbo Stream. I was a bit worried about you this week, so glad that you were okay. And he goes on to say, I suspect I had some kind of infection last week. My way, all good this week. So anybody that was worried about Turbo Stream, he said last week he was in A&E at the time. He is okay. Adrian is out there. Good evening to you. Who else have we got? Nicola is out there from Cornwall. Hello to you. Anna Jones is out there. Good evening to you. Scrolling. Hargrave Gas is there. Evening all. Hope everyone has had a good week. More cold weather on its way, they are saying. And Anna Jones also goes on to say, nasty wind chill in the northeast. And Nicola says, chilly but sunny in Cornwall. Gritters out last night. It really has dropped in temperature the last couple of days, hasn't it? I'm sitting here, I've got my hoodie on. I've had the heater on for days to warm this place up. It's just got nice and warm. But indoors, in our house, it's absolutely freezing. Ballysoon says, great day at the plot today, bright sunshine, but was getting chilly when I left. Yeah, I know that feeling. It's been very, very chilly here on the south coast. Chilly Phil, evening from the Chilies. Good evening to you guys. And Muddy Boots is out there. Good evening all. Good evening to you. Lovely to see you the other day. Hope you had a good day out. We'll find out what you thought or what your predictions are for this year. Good evening, Richard and the Veg Army from Stuart over on the Facebook group. Good evening to you. Digwell singing some Oasis. Yo, what's the story? Morning glory. Good evening to you. Hope you are well. Alison O'Brien is out there. Evening all. Hope you're all well. I've been in bed all week with a bad cold. Hope you get better soon. Make sure you take it easy. There are lots of people, lots of colds going around at the moment, so I know how you feel. Ian Suggett is out there. Good evening, Dad. Hope you are well. Richard Golden is out there. Hello all. Good evening to you. David Williams, hello all. Good evening to you. Grove Veg UK, Splosh Splash, jumping in the bath. Looking forward to listening on. He always listens to the button while he's in the bath. Nicholas says the electric blanket is keeping me warm. Indeed. Have I said David Williams? David Williams is out there. Good evening to you. Turbo Stream has been cold today. I managed a short bike ride out this morning, but been mostly in the house this week. Idaho Garden Girl is out there. Good evening to you. Hello, Richard and everybody. She says good evening to you. I think that is everybody that I can see. But please do leave a comment. Let us know if you're watching, who you are, where you're from, what you enjoy doing your gardening, or just joining the conversation. The phone line is open if it works. I know we've been having trouble with it working. 07307 135 174 is the phone number. And if you want to zap in, we've also got a link that you click on to access as well. So, as I said, it's all about gardening trends today. The other day, Tuesday to be exact, I went up to London for a gardening press event. I go to this most years since 2019, I think it was the first time. Obviously, 2020 was a difficult year, but we did go in 2020, and about 2 weeks later, we're in lockdown. But yeah, it's a gardening event. It's a chance for media people to go and see what's going on in the world of gardening, is what happens in a nutshell. And I'm lucky enough to be able to attend. So while I'm there, get a chance to see what different brands are doing, what new products are coming out in the pipeline, speak to people like Nigel, Muddy Boots, and various other people who are there as well. It's a good day out if you are able to get to it, that is. So what I've done, let's bring this up to the right one. I have made a bit of a presentation with the first points that I felt are going to be a key trend for gardening in 2023. And unfortunately, I've put the banner is in the way. If I get rid of the overlay, that might make it. First of all, we have got battery operated gadgets. So what these are, as you can see in that picture, there's Flymo, also own various other brands, Husqvarna, and Bosch, I believe it is. They're all under the same brand. And one of the things they're doing is making all their batteries work across their entire ranges. So if you've got a Bosch drill, your Flymo battery will still work in that Bosch drill. And the same with Husqvarna and all the other stuff that is going on, which I think is a good idea. You know me and Ryobi, I've had a lot of success with my Ryobi tools because of the fact that I like the tools work in the same brand in a number of tools. So my lawnmower is powered by Ryobi, my chainsaw is powered by Ryobi, my drill is powered by Ryobi, my polisher is Ryobi. You get the idea. The same battery powers a wide range of tools, and that just means it makes my life easier because I've always got batteries on charged and charged up to go. Added to that, I also saw, and it was I didn't get a picture of it, I'm afraid. I thought I did, but I don't. A water fountain that is also battery powered. Now, I was talking to these manufacturers, and they claimed that the battery would last for something like 102 hours, which I worked out to be about 5 days. Now, that's non-stop. Obviously, you're not going to have it on non-stop, so you probably get a month worth out of it having it on for a couple of hours every day. So advances in battery technology, I felt that was telling me that the battery technology is moving on, and there's going to be a massive increase in battery usage in the garden. A water fountain powered by battery kind of makes sense, although we did question about charging it. You have to take it out of the water every time. So that's my first one that I felt I've noticed over on this day out for this gardening trend. Oracle Ards Allotment has joined. Hello, Army and Stuart Jackson. Cement Pockets over on the other outlet. Yep, he is out there. David Williams, following the recent shortage of tomatoes, peppers, etc., all the tomato seeds by me have sold out. LOL. Yes, yeah, I saw that in the news, and that is an interesting point. You know, I think I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of it, but I think the shortage of tomatoes and peppers, and dare I say it, Clarkson's Farm has brought home to us the reality of how our food gets to our plates. So I do see more and more people moving towards self-sufficiency, but that happens all the time when the economy takes a nosedive. So I think you could be right there. David Williams says, so I see it trending towards things like that. Yeah, I see more and more people moving to grow your own, especially with a cost of living crisis. Rebecca has joined. Good evening to you. Hope you are well. Lovely to see you. Now, Digwell says, many makes of batteries are interchangeable. You just need to file off the offending lugs that stops fitting to the tool as long as the voltage is the same. You're not wrong. I mean, there's only so many battery manufacturers in the world, but again, I'll use my Ryobi example. I started off with a Ryobi chainsaw and strimmer, and I've just built my collection up on the back of that because I like the fact that the batteries work in a wide range of tools, and that I see. Say Flymo, Husqvarna, Bosch, all having this. They're all with the same company, of course, but making their batteries run on all their tools just seems to make sense. What have we got? Ian McCragan is joining. McCragan or McCorgan? I always get it wrong. I'm sorry. Hi, Richard and all. I use battery garden tools, but don't use it in the frost as mine do not work, as the lithium-ion batteries don't work in frosty temperatures. You are quite right there. There is limitations when it comes to batteries, especially in the cold. But I see that technology getting better and better the more it is used. So as I said, yeah, let's go back to that one. As you say, this is the Flymo Husqvarna range. All these, and down the end there, at the very bottom right corner, you can see some of the batteries in different amperage to show you what they can be used for. Next on my slide is tools for small spaces. Now, these were particularly prevalent, I found, and I like the idea of these sort of tools. This is one example. It's a sort of digging spade. It's bigger than a trowel, but nowhere near as big as a spade. And I think in a greenhouse or somewhere where you are restricted in space, it's a great idea to have. So I was quite liking this as another trend that I see. And it got me thinking as well while I was there, because I saw quite a few tool manufacturers doing something similar. It become more and more relevant that people are struggling to find a space to garden. So they are trying to make tools that are easier to store, like that one, but also are more suitable for that space. Now, I use the example of my greenhouse. At the moment, my greenhouse is just chocker full of plants, in pots, in containers, million and one things that it's just so difficult. But if I go in there with the shelves and everything as well, with a spade to try and dig a hole to plant a tomato, for example, I'm going to end up knocking things all over the place. So that small shovel, small spade, I thought was just a good solution for that sort of opportunity. Now, Money Boots says that small spade looks like a turf iron. Funnily enough, that's exactly what I said to the people on the stand as well. A turf iron is a very old tool for lifting up turf, and I've got two of them somewhere. They should really come in here. This is meant to be a set after all. But yeah, it was quite, and there was quite a few, as I said, these smaller tools, not quite the size of a spade, not quite smaller, or not as small as a trowel by far. I see being a good thing. And I come back to small space. So if you've got a balcony and you don't really want spade, fork, everything else you might need, these smaller tools seem to make more sense. Oracle says technology has moved on so quickly. I remember the push mower. Now you have a battery one, no leads or anything. Push mowers are hard work. I've had them in the past, and hard work. So it's no surprise. But I mean, I love battery power tools. For years, I would stick with petrol. And in some cases, petrol is still king, because on the big hard jobs, the batteries just aren't quite as powerful enough yet. But the battery is definitely getting there. So I'm definitely with you on that. Andy's Bucket Garden says, I wonder what the ergonomics are like. Yeah, this was something I did wonder myself, but you're not going to be going and digging out an entire tree or something like that with that small spade. It's more for in a tight area, I felt, and with some very loose soil that you can easily dig away, and something very, very easy. Money Boots also say Wolfguard make the best space saving tool. One handle fits many. Yeah, the click the tools into the handles, isn't it? I've seen them. They are absolutely brilliant. Definitely that. And if you can afford them, a bit like the Ryobi tools, as I said, the interchangeable, the fact that you only buy one thing once and use it on a wide range of tools makes it worthwhile. Digwell says, won't it hurt your back if you are tall? Yep, that's why it's only for small spaces. As I come back to that point, it is for small spaces. David Williams says that little spade looks well handy for greenhouse work. That's exactly what I thought when I saw it. Andy's bucket gun. I find that hand tools are best for small spaces. Again, totally agree with that. A nice trowel or a fork. I've got so many of them all over the place that they are well worth it for that small space. But sometimes you just need something in between, don't you? There are times when you just need that little bit in between. And Anna Jones is another fan of the Wolf Garden tool here. So excellent. That's great to see. Now, I think this is Stuart. That small space would be great for the children at school. Again, that's funny enough what I thought. Oh, another thing that I thought as well. I mean, it's probably about size of a child. I remember when I went to interview somebody on their allotment, their child was helping them on their allotment and they were using the adult spades that was as big as this young child. And I'm all for, I personally think children, if they're going to have their own spade, they need decent tools, not the kiddie ones that break in seconds, decent tools so that they actually do the job. So yeah, that's another great use for that. Belly Susan says, I brought a kiddie's rake. It's great for my raised beds as I mostly work there kneeling down. And that's a good idea, actually, buying the kiddie's tool, as long as they're the decent kiddie's tool. You know, the ones that I feel aren't really up to the job, the plasticky ones. But there are proper gardening tools out there for kids, and I think they are the way to go because they're going to last. I'm all about tools lasting. You know, we don't want to buy a spade or a fork that snaps in 5 minutes. It wants to last. So Stuart says, I use border forks and spades at school as they are a bit smaller for the children. Exactly right. Exactly right. Border forks and spades are a bit smaller, but the handle, I mean, again, it depends on how big the children are, of course, but some of the handles can be as big as the children. So yeah, that is tools for small spaces, a trend that I was also seeing. And what do you think? Is that going to be something you're going to see moving forward as well? Now, next on my list, I love this. Absolutely love this. Outdoor cooking. So this comes from Fiskars, who are a well-known tool knife manufacturer. I've got lots of their gardening tools, and I've had them for years, but they are also creating this range of cookware for outside. And as you can see, it's like a Dutch oven. It's got a steam pot, a lid, a frying pan. It's this one pot for a multitude of uses. You know what? I asked about this. The price for that was over £200. So with the cost of living crisis, I don't see many people running out to buy that. But I love a good barbecue, as I'm sure many people do. And I also do a fair bit of camping. So when I'm out camping, we have a Dutch oven that we use for camping trips as well. So I see that. I think people in a cost of living crisis might be doing things like camping more this year. So they might be buying these Dutch ovens to take on camping, but they can also use at home in their home barbecues and stuff. Now, I actually had an email from Fiskars the other day talking about this. They're trying to promote it. It's all out in the spring, summertime. Absolutely beautiful load of stuff that they're doing with it, I've got to say. A lot of good stuff coming in if you can get beyond the price point, that is. But a good Dutch oven made out of cast iron, it's going to last as long as it's seasoned well, and you can cook so many things on it. We spoke before, didn't we, about cowboy beans, wasn't it? We spoke about once, and I ended up cooking. Great in a Dutch oven. Right, let's have a quick look what people are saying on the chat again. Turbo Stream, I use a hand trowel on my allotment all the time. So useful to clear a small area when planting out. Can be used as a small hoe to skim off any weeds. There's a lot to be said for the good old hand trowel. A decent hand trowel is used a lot. Oracle says, I may be wrong, but the battery was to replace the petrol to stop emissions. You're probably right there. I think there's also benefits of or the negatives of petrol. It's quite smelly and oily. If you're carrying it around in the boot of your car, spillages, etc., where battery powered just seems to have a bit of an advantage over, does come into play as well. Emissions, I mean, that's a whole other thing I'm not going to get into because I don't know the science behind it. So yeah. Jen's Garden Ventures, sorry. Evening all, good evening to you. Hope you are well. Lovely to see you. Aaron White, totally agree about Wolf tools. So versatile and long lasting. Fantastic. A lot of people are really impressed with Wolf tools today. I'm going to have to contact them at some point and see what we can do. Skinny Jingana, here he is. Hello, Suggs. Good evening, buddy. If you didn't see on the thumbnail for this image, you would have seen Lee in a robotic lawnmower. He was asked to sit in to try and persuade him to buy it. Great photo, great photo. Turbo Stream, I looked at the Wolf tiller last year, £60 plus the cost of a handle, a bit too much to justify on a mainly no-dig plot. Keep your eye on eBay or Facebook Marketplace because some people may well be selling those second-hand. So that could be something to look at as well. Rebecca says, Richard, that does look good. I love cooking outside on those summer nights we're all missing. I'm with you, completely with you. I really do like that. I mean, I've got a Dutch oven, but that one, I mean, I'm a big fan of Fiskars. Anybody who knows me know I'm a big fan of Bear Grylls and knives. And Gerber, who is owned by Fiskars, is one of those tools that I absolutely love. And as you know, I've got the orange and black handles from the Fiskars tools. That's an old one, as you can see. You might see some on the board behind me as well. They stand out. If you're in the garden, those tools just stand out, which is what I love about those as well. Money Boot says, to Turbo Stream, I have picked up quite a few Wolf attachments from car boot sales. So there you go. Another place to look out for them, car boot sales. Digwell says, easier to use than an enameled Dutch oven, just as hardware in it and versatile, and a darn sight cheaper. Yeah, you're not wrong there. You're not wrong there. Enameled stuff seems to be very hard to get hold of these days. I mean, the cast iron, love cast iron, especially for cooking, but I'm with you on enameled. It's a bit lighter, isn't it? Stuart says, I use Wolf tools at home. They have great customer service. You're really loving the Wolf tools today, aren't you? That's great. And Jen says, I have Spear and Jackson tools. I love them. I didn't see Spear and Jackson the other day, I don't think, but who knows? Andrew Nice has joined. Evening all. Sorry, I'm late. Good evening to you. So yeah. Bring that back up. Yeah, so outdoor cooking, I think, is going to be something very much prominent this year. As I said, with the cost of living, people might be looking to barbecue or on wood fires a bit more this year. I mean, like I said, I love this Dutch oven from Fiskars. It looks fantastic. It's built to last. So my next item, biodegradable products. This is something that has, I say biodegradable, something that has been popping up quite a bit. So in this picture, you can see these plants that are in what looks like woolen socks, and that's exactly what they are, woolen socks, but they're made into pots. The idea being you grow your plants in them, you can plant them straight into the ground and they will biodegrade into the ground. And added to that, the wool is going to deter slugs and snails. I thought that was a good idea. In fact, been lucky enough to have been given a few samples. I've got I think there's about 9 in this lot and this one here. So I'll bring it to the overhead so you can see what's going on. As you can see, fill that up with compost, put your plant in and straight into the ground, or leave it on the bench like they were showing, leave it to grow. There you go. Nice and easy. I like this. I do like this. I do like biodegradable products and woolen products as well. Now, this is Egyptian wool they're using, but they're trying to use UK wool. Again, anybody that knows about the problems with sheep and wool in this country, you know, wool is just not worth it at the moment. But if we can make a market for wool, including turning them into pots or Horty wool, I've also got. I've had this for a while now. Haven't yet to put it to use. Hanging basket liners, seed trays, huge use of things that wool can be used for. So that was another trend that I was seeing happening as well, using woolen products. Stuart says wool products look great. How long does it take for them to rot down? It depends. Like so many things, obviously it depends on the circumstances and what conditions it's in. We will be testing it out this year in the balcony garden to see just how long it takes for them to rot down. I can see perhaps like a rosemary plant growing in here or thyme or something. And how long it takes to rot down, we don't know. We don't know at all. Digwell does make a good point. I suspect it's cheaper to use a proper woolen sock. It probably is. I didn't actually find out how much they are charging for those, but it probably is cheaper to buy a proper woolen sock if you've got one. But I come back to the point that I feel quite strongly at the moment is that we're trying to back the UK British sheep farmers for their wool, so that there's an industry going. As I understand it, and Adrian's probably going to be able to tell us more about it, sheep's wool is pretty much worthless at the moment, my understanding. Wool has no real cost anymore, as it costs £2 per fleece to take off a sheep, but they only get about 90p for it from the wool market, says Stuart. Exactly. There's not the demand for the sheep's wool at the moment. So I feel if we can boost it, it will help out a lot more. Skinny Jean Garner says he thinks it was like £13 to £15 for that lot. £13 to £15 for that lot. Not a huge, yeah, not exactly what I call cheap, but I think if you're prepared to pay it. I think the Horty wool wasn't badly priced. This stuff, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. I've seen them in garden centres, and if you're a supporter club member, there's also a discount code on our website for Horty wool. Well worth going to check that out. Turbo Stream, I would prefer Stuart's paper pots to wall planters. Seems a gimmick somehow. Sheep's wool can be used for loft installation, I think. You're right, it could be used for loft installation. It could be used for a lot of things, but it's not being used. Stuart's paper pots, yeah, that's another good alternative. It's just time taken into making them, I guess, is the only downside with them. But again, this is another trend that we are seeing. Stuart also says, I can make paper pots for nothing as I use my junk mail, says Stuart. Yeah, so again, it's just another thing that we are seeing. It's just a trend. It's a trend I'm seeing. David Williams has got to go. Have a good night, and we'll catch up with the rest later. You take care, buddy. Thank you very much for joining us. But still, I come back to when you see them like that, I think it looks quite interesting as well. And I guess as well, being that almost like hair pots, they're going to prune those roots if they try and get out as well. So there's advantages all around too. Now, next, products made from recyclable materials. This one, the people here jumped on us quite early on, and you see, I think it was the big circular one on the left-hand side. That was the one they showed us. Now, these are obviously bird feeders and what have you, bird feeders, bird houses, etc., etc. And the plastic that they've used to make these is all from the plastic lining from Tetra Pak. So it's all recycled materials. Now, our first question was, and actually I'll do what they did to us, that big round one. How much do you think that sells for? I won't answer that question just yet, but I'll leave you guys to answer that and see what you think. In fact, I'll leave that picture up there, that big round one, how much it is. Skinny Jean, you can stay out of this quick list one because you know how much it cost. So Skinny Jean is saying wool's great, but I fear too expensive as a product to go big. You're probably right, but as I come back to the fact I'm trying to back British farmers at the same point. And the Horty, particularly the Horty wool, I do quite like. Anna Jones, I make my own barley straw bales with old socks. Wouldn't buy new ones though. Barley straw bales with old socks. That's how do you do that? That's interesting. Anna Digwell says, and they dry out quickly at Skinny Jean to Skinny Jean. That's talking about the wool. Well, we're going to find that out. We're using these this year and see just how they get on. Belly Season says, everything is expensive when it comes out. If it gets a market price, it will come down. If it gets a market price, will come down. Absolutely right with that, Ballysilian. So Ballysilian says £30 for that round thing. Rebecca says, no, I'm liking those. I'm thinking they'll be expensive. Oracle says Stuart Jackson would set the cat among the pigeons on the day about saving money. Stuart says £15 to £20 for the round pot. Muddy Boots, I saw the bird feeders, the bird £20 feeders. I reckon the squirrels would soon destroy them. Skinny Jean says they were a highlight for me. Great design and great cost. All made out of recycled materials. Idaho says, I'm wondering what is replacing woolen socks and coats, man-made fibre. I actually prefer cotton and wool, but it's difficult to find clothing that's 100% natural fibre. So yeah, I'm with you on that. Digwell says that those things, ugly things, those bird feeders. And I've saved this one for the last. Jen's Garden Adventures, £10 a piece. You are right. That big round one was at $9.99. They were trying to make sure everything that they were selling was under £10, which I think is actually pretty good, especially as it comes back to the fact that it is that plastic liner from Tetra Pak materials. So I think I was quite impressed with them. I was really impressed with it. Now, Rebecca also says, would the squirrels destroy them in a day? I would like to think that they have been tested. They did seem quite solid when I was playing around with them, but that might be something we would have to test to find out how well they last. But I come back to the fact they are made from this plastic waste material. I've got some pots here called Root Pouch, which I got from Glee last year, which is another trend, or tying in with this trend about it being made from recyclable materials. So these root pouches are pots. I'm trying to think where I pot them. I saw them the other day, and they've used the plastic from drinks bottles to wave in and out to make like a netting. I'll find it when I've got a video showing in just a minute to show you what I'm talking about. Oracle says, tenant, now that's cheap. Would they stand the test of time? That's the good question. It is a very good question to ask. With time. And then Stuart says, what happens to the plastic feeders when they start to break down? Can you recycle them? I think you can recycle them. Yes, I believe you can actually send them back to the company that builds them. And they will actually put them through the machines and turn them back into more recyclable material, back into these bird feeders and what have you. Interesting, isn't it? Rebecca says it's a good price. I thought I was expecting £26. I thought it was going to be retailing at £9.99. I thought was a pretty damn good price. Anna, you put a handful of barley straw in an old stock instead of spending £10 and brought one in a net. Oh, Fantastic, fantastic. And not just Green Fingers UK blog, aka Lisa has joined. Evening all. Sorry I'm late. Hope everyone is well. Hope you are well. Lovely to see you. We're talking about garden trends for 2023 and what you think is going to happen. So products made from recyclable materials is that on the list. Now next, peat-free compost. This is obviously one that we've had a lot of discussions about peat-free. Some people saying peat-free isn't as good. The question's out there, but obviously the law is changing and peat is not going to be used in our compost. So it's kind of a case of trying to find what is the best compost out there to suit our needs. And again, I believe that the more the market demands this good quality peat-free compost, the better it's going to get. So this is from a company called Rocket Grow, peat-free seed and cutting compost. There was a lot of compost at this event the other day, compost companies who were all trying to explain and share what they were selling. So that was definitely a big one, especially as the law is changing. Muddy Boots says, I was told the large round one was £20. Now we were told a tenner. I'm sure we weren't we, Skinny? Absolutely adamant we were told a tenner because we were both blown away with it. In fact, yeah, I made a note of it as well. So yeah, peat-free compost. Again, a lot of debate what's good and what's bad. I think it's a case of just trialing them and trying to get the quality up there and get the overall quality of the compost to be that good. So yeah, I don't know if anybody has any particular favorite composts that they use out there, any particular favorite brands. There was a few there the other day. There we go, Defo Tenner. There we go, that's what I thought. There's quite a few brands of compost out there the other day, some good, some bad, some expensive, some cheap. We've got to weigh it up and see what is the best. Difficult one to figure out what is the best for the future. Now, the final trend that I feel that is going to be evident throughout 2023 is more and more people composting. This ties in with the last comment. Now, this is a new bin from Hot Bin. It is, well, this is the smaller version of their larger bins. I mean, these are over £500. I think this one was 660. You're not going to buy these for an allotment, let's be honest. It's designed for an allotment. It's not going to happen, is it? It's just not going to happen. You're not going to spend that much money for something on the allotment. That is, if you've seen the recent video I put out, I've built a larger compost bin because we're trying to produce more compost, better compost. We need a lot of it on the allotment. So moving towards this sort of large scale composting is again something I see happening. And more people are getting into composting as well. Digwell says, Rocket Grower, saw Sean's video on this at the show. Toby, the director, stated all of our compost goes through a 5mm trommel. I used some today and pulled out some massive bits of wood. So I've not got any experience with Rocket Grow, but I'm trying to get some samples and what have you, and see what happens. So yeah, that's interesting that you pulled out massive bits of wood. Jen's Garner Ventures says, I think more wildlife encouragement might be on trend this year. I'm seeing a push from the wildlife agency towards it. Even the office campus has jumped on board. Nest boxes and bug hotels all over. You're right, actually. Yeah, I think wildlife is definitely something coming up. I'm seeing more and more wildlife friendly products. In fact, more organic products. I've got a sample of this stuff, which is for improving the soil. Grow Well. It's organic. It has mycorrhizal fungi in it. It's a plant root stimulant, beneficial bacteria. That's something you are definitely on there with. Yeah, wildlife gardening, definitely. Rebecca says, does anyone feel peat-free compost still has a long way to go? I haven't found a favorite one yet. Yes, I agree. Totally agree with you. It's getting there. It's just not as good yet. Sometimes you get a good one, but the variances between the batches is so all over the place. In fact, what I would say, and we're testing this out this year with our potato experiment, we're trying potatoes in different types of peat-free compost, including our homemade compost. And I think the homemade compost is probably going to be working out better. Skinny Jean Garnett says, where would you see these used, do you think, Suggs? That's the those large compost bins. Schools, probably. Somewhere where it's going to be secure. There's going to be a big amount of compostable waste, such as a school or recreation field, possibly. Somewhere where, but it's the price more than anything that would make me not want to put it on the compost, on the allotment. You know, the larger version is nearly £1,000, and that's a lot of money to have on an allotment, unless you've got a very, very big garden. Of course, if you've got a big garden, then you probably are going to be looking at something for that sort of size. Have I missed a comment? Have I? Yes, I have. Sorry. Andy's bucket garden. Peat-free obviously was way forward, but I suspect Koya isn't as good ecological as it seems. Dalefoot do bracken and wool, and that seems better. Yes, there's a lot of debate about Koya. I've had pretty good results with Koya. And I was speaking to a company who, they've suddenly gone silent on me, but I was speaking on a company about these Koya products because they actually ship it from India by boat in large quantities, which makes it less pollution than shipping peat from Scotland, so they say. But bracken, a good one to add bracken. In fact, I think Monty Don often uses bracken in his mixes, doesn't he? Money Boots says, tried Dale's foot compost a while back and wasn't impressed. The seed compost was very coarse. Yeah. And Idaho says, is that composter insulated against cold? That's what I'm looking for. It's a hot bin composter. So yes, it is insulated against the cold, but it's also designed to generate a lot of heat, build up heat, hold on to that heat in order to break it down. It's called hot bin composting or hot bin compost system. I think they would sell them in the States, but I'm not sure. But Idaho, let us know if they do. Let us know if they do. Peat-free has not got any better, just gone up in price. As an industry, they have to do better. We have to also tell them what they're doing wrong. This is why I like doing experiments with potatoes and possibly tomatoes as well in different composts. Treat them all exactly the same to find out what does best. Salad leaves, etc., etc. We've got to test all these things out to find out what's better. When the fruit and veg shortages, perhaps it will become even more trendy to grow your own than it was in lockdown. We say this all the time. Whenever there's a cost of living crisis, there's a resurgence in allotments, etc., etc. And then it soon goes away. Once the problem is sorted, it soon goes away. Digwell says, I had high hopes for Rocket Grow, but my hopes are now dashed, but their mulch is okay. Interesting. There's a Swedish company, Dura, making an insulated composter, but very good, but supposed to be able to compost in even the dead of winter. That's what they say about the hot bins as well. It's a bit slower, of course, but it should do okay in the depths of winter. Moneyboot says, I would say Bathgate Champions Blend Peat-free was the best I have used, but I can only get it when a friend is in Rutland area. Interesting. I've not heard... yeah, Bathgate, of course I have heard of them. Oracle says a school wouldn't need it if it's run right. A school wouldn't need it if it's run right. You would make some compost. I think if everybody, I believe that everybody should be composting anyway. It's a black gold. Otherwise, all your food waste is going in the bin and out to the wherever it goes. You know, if we're all composting, it's benefiting us. So if a school is composting, even better. Stuart says we don't have the money for big compost bins. We could build our own for a lot less than that price. I know what you're saying. I do agree. But that's the only place I could see it being used. What else have we got? Digwell says, if you think peat-free stuff is expensive now, wait till 2028. Get making your own compost. Get making your own compost. I feel peat-free compost needs a smaller mesh on the trommels. Seen some branches appear in certain varieties. Yeah, I've had stones as well, bricks type things in some of mine. So I'm totally with you about that. Stuart has also sent emails to 2 compost companies to complain about the wood in bags. No answer as of yet. So there we go. Jen says, I've never had an issue with Lidl peat free, to be honest. The local town council lets you take food waste compost away if you have transport. Never tried it. Trouble with the local compost is you don't know what's gone into it. There could be chemicals such as weed killer that has gone into it, or diseased material. It may be okay, and the chances are it's okay, but I'm always very, very cautious with it. Until a weed killer ban comes in, then I wouldn't use it. I've not seen any Champions blend on my various visits to the store so far. This is a compost, okay. And Skin Jeans, Stu, how much was your bull composter? So there we go. Right, I am going to show you a quick little video. Let's do the photo video for this week. Yes, it's that time of the show again to look at the photos that you guys have been sharing. First up is Stuart Jackson. Stuart's been busy sowing seeds. He's listed sweet peppers, spinach, broad beans, lupins, and he's also been pricking them out and getting them ready for the growing. He looks really, really far ahead, it has to be said. Next, Kate has made a world record attempt to do with crochet. Well done, Kate. Very pleased to see that. While she was there, she met the Plotty Plotters, another podcaster who are pretty good actually, and they very kindly gave her some seeds, so very well done indeed. She's also been busy making a seed storage container using these things that have been doing the rounds. This is the end result. Nice and organised, nice and well put together. Now Grace, a new member in the group, has been busy revamping her greenhouse with the aid of her child. As you can see, bit of a mess when it begins. Second-hand greenhouses always are, but with a bit of effort, a bit of hard work and a lot of gravel, it soon turns into a very well-used, productive area, and it's absolutely fantastic to see. In fact, it's given me a few ideas of what to do myself. I absolutely love this, and as you can see, the helping hand is very well used too. Now next, Jenny has been growing some sweet potato slips in order to get some sweet potatoes this year. Something I've tried to do myself but not had much luck, but I'm going to give it a try again. I want to see Jenny do this. Now Chili Kate, she's been sharing this seed swap leaflet for one in Southampton in a couple of weeks' time, and she's also shared this view of our allotment at the end of it. The evenings now are getting absolutely wonderful. So please do keep sharing your photos. They go down really well. Yes, please do keep sharing your photos. They're going down really, really well. I got cut off right at the end of that. So, yeah, these all came from the Facebook group this week. Absolutely brilliant, I've got to say. If you are not in our Facebook group, do go and join in. People are often sharing certain discount codes as well as what they're doing in their own allotment and garden, as you've just seen just a few of the pictures that are going up. Please do join in. It's great to see so much going on. Now, I was talking about root pouch and recycled. This is the sort of container I was talking about. This is made from plastic bottles. Now, he gave me a few samples. I saw him this at another event last year, and that's why I haven't put them into use yet. But one thing he did say that I wasn't too pleased about doing, all the microplastics in that it's made out of, has put me off a little bit from using them, because especially if you grow in them, then you plant them in the soil, just didn't seem right. But that's probably a whole other subject, isn't it? A lot of talk about compost, of course. I normally use Wilco compost, but yet to try their peat-free version. I was selling it off cheap the other day, I saw. But yeah, compost, Wilco compost is all. I mean, there's so many different composts out there. It's hard to know what's the what's the right one for you. I usually go for what's available. Oracle says, do you get the food waste and grass cutting, Stuart? If so, how much would you be able to make a year? I can make some out of the stuff around the house. So, Stuart, how much compost are you able to make in terms of literage or kilos, or how much compost for your needs at school? Ian Beddoes has finished the new vinyl flooring but has been listening. Thank you, Ian. Lovely to see you. Money with Sora Lob and Dan have green waste analysed. Cyanide certainly put me off. Yeah, the household compost, the household waste compost does put me off as well for that. Skinny Jean, controversial perhaps, but I use B&Q compost sometimes and it's been good. Plant Grow is also very good. I've yet to use Plant Grow. I should. I was looking at ordering some the other day, but not so easy to do unless I get it in bulk. B&Q compost I've used quite a bit, and that's pretty good as well. I have to admit, it's not the best, but it does the job. The ball composter was around £100, which the children raised all the money themselves, says Stuart. Yeah, there we go. Rebecca says he's a good little worker, that young lad in the greenhouse, indeed. Digwell says there was clopyralide. He always puts these words to frame me, isn't it? In my B&Q compost, killed the tomato plants last year, and it was only very weak according to analysis from the lab. I didn't. It's amazing, is it? It's different batches. Sometimes the batches are just different, and I think that's often where the problem lies. Skinny Jean, oh, I like them. What are they called? The root pouch. They're called root pouch. Ransu, I use Epsom salt and bar salt when growing tomatoes and peppers. Now that's quite convenient that you said that, actually, because next week I do want to be talking about feeds and fertilizers to give you all a bit of a heads up. Digwell says, why not just use standard cloth bag planters? Seem pointless making a different one out of plastic. You've got a point there. You do have a very, very good point. And Stuart says, we have 7 compost bins at school. 3 of them had bark from the old Christmas trees. So yes, we probably make 4 to 5 bins a year, but we could still do better. I do think more and more people are going to be trying to make compost this year. And I certainly am trying to make more compost. I literally am anything that can be turned into compost is going to be turned into compost, is my sort of analysis at the moment. By the way, just want to remind you, if you are enjoying this live stream, please do give us a like, a subscribe, a follow, a notification so that you know when we go live and all that jazz. Got to say it, as you know, but it does help the algorithms. I should have said it at the start. Now, last week I did set a mission. Does everybody remember what the mission was? Because if I recall, it was to work out what seeds you're going to be sowing throughout March. March is just around the corner, as we know. In fact, Wednesday, 3 days away, and we are into March. And I believe that would be officially we are into spring. So I've got to admit, I usually have a lot more seeds sown by now, but because I'm not using the heated propagators or lights, I have had to hold back. So we're obviously doing the grow along and the seeds from the supporters club. We're sowing all those as we go along, but March, it's going to really start ramping up. So I'm going to be sowing more sweet peppers, more tomatoes, cucumbers, gherkins, because I like gherkins. I won't be doing courgettes, beans, peas I will be doing. What else would I be doing? It's quite a huge list. Obviously, salad leaves. I always do salad leaves, cabbages, cauliflowers. Don't need any more Brussels sprouts. We're okay for those. But what about you guys? Let us know what you are going to be sowing throughout March. Toby Stream, my current peat-free bags of compost are made by Beautiful Gardens. Very fibrous, but seem okay so far. Takes ages to sieve though. And Digwell says, from what I've seen of the show last week, there weren't many new ideas or indeed groundbreaking inventions. No, nothing. But I've been saying that for the last few years. But it's the trends, the fashions. That's what we're seeing, and the way it is going. Um, there's nothing. I mean, there's a show in the middle of a year that you tend to see more of the new ideas or the groundbreaking inventions. At the moment, it's just there's nothing that special out there, or nothing that makes you think, yeah, this is going to change things. But it is about trends. This is the important thing that I'm trying to say. Trends, where people seem to be going towards the garden. Saying that, one trend that I did forget to mention was indoor gardening. There was quite a few indoor gardening, but there wasn't that many indoor gardening things at the event. But I'm seeing more and more people getting into indoor garden, be it hydroponics or grow lights. In fact, I saw somebody in the audience who, I don't know if I should say, who has got a new indoor garden from a certain company, which absolutely fantastic. And one of the things that I did see at the show was a guy who he's made a bit of a gadget, a plant alarm. So it's a moisture sensor. You stick it in the soil, and it changes light when you need to water the plants. Now that's nothing that special. No, I've seen them all over the place. I put it into use now. But the other thing that he was doing was these sort of. Let me bring it on the overhead. So these are keep your plants watered when you're away, and they are basically a wicking system. You put them into your pots, you put the other end into water, and depending on how much water you got in the other end, it will keep your plants watered while you're away. There's a definite move towards more indoor gardening at the moment as well. Have I said this one? Digler says that's way lower than I expected, Stuart. I could fill a bin in a month, and that's with two people in front and back lawns. I know exactly how you feel. Yeah, I always amazed how much compost material we seem to be able to produce. I was expecting more compost companies there. I was expecting more companies there in a nutshell. I thought it wasn't as many as usual. And I didn't see any of the big seed companies there apart from one. Um, I thought they were quite lacking in that. So Muddy Boots was there on Tuesday as well. Um, so this is slightly not for you. I think Glee is it July this year? I think that's the bigger one. That's where we're going to see more of the compost companies and more of the actual trade shows going on. This one, I think, being in central London, it's probably quite expensive to exhibit there. It's not the biggest place. I think that changed things. Rebecca says, we've all been indoor gardening for years, just growing on windowsills. Yes, exactly. You are right. You are completely right. When I had a flat, I just used the windowsills. But there is a trend moving, and it has been for a few years now, but there is a trend to people, especially if you are trying to grow your own food and you haven't got outdoor space, you haven't got an allotment, there are more and more people who are moving towards growing indoors. And Digwell says it was his Veggie kitchen garden video that's out tomorrow. Wonderful piece of kit. Now, everybody knows I love the Veggie. I've got 3 of the Veggie gardens, Veggie raised beds now. And the kitchen garden I'm very, very tempted with as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing your video on it, Steve. Love it. Stuart says, we don't compost much of the grass cuttings, which could help us make more if I had time. Right. Now, I was talking about last week's mission. Did everybody forget? Because I very nearly forgot as well. But I was seeing what everybody wants to sow next week for next year. For next week, the challenge, as you no doubt have probably worked out, we're going into March, which means I want a photograph of your allotment of your garden at the first of the month. We're building this up to try and get a good idea of what is going on everybody's gardens. And come December, we're going to put them all together and do like a flip book to see how they evolve and change over the years. I've got to say, I was down on my allotment today, and my allotment has been feeling, my garden has as well, it's all been feeling rather messy lately, but that's the winter months. Today, I cleared a lot of the areas, and all of a sudden, it just suddenly feels like it's suddenly falling into place. So I reckon next week, it's going to not be perfect, but it's certainly going to look a lot tidier. Nicola says, I watched Noel Garner's World with Alan Titchmarsh. He used old woolly jumpers to line hanging baskets. Sure, you could use arm for the small pots like you showed, and the body for large growing pots. It's a good idea. It has good idea as well. So, yeah. Moneyboot says, the London show is sponsored by the GIMA, the Gardening Industry Media of something. So I would expect larger companies there. Glee is bigger, but not totally garden focused. No, but I feel that you are right. But I feel at Glee, because it's a bigger venue, we seem to be able to get better coverage or better mix of things. I mean, the Glee is aimed for garden centres, of course, so it is a trade show. Bally said, my aim this year is to make more use of polytunnels and outside beds for growing winter crops to fill the hungry gap. Yep, exactly. We were talking about this earlier, funny enough, with Amanda, and the tomatoes and the peppers, circumstances we find ourselves in. We're going to be growing a lot of salads this year. We always do, but we're going to be growing a lot more stuff this year just to fill in that hunger gap and make sure we are self-sufficient. Moneyweeks, I've started my big allotment cleanup today. Yep, it's that time, isn't it? It's suddenly just kicked in for that time. Spring is around the corner, as they say. Sown lots of seeds today, then watched the weather and now regretting it as it's meant to get colder in the coming weeks, says Stuart. I hope it doesn't get colder. Turbo Stream, I've not been down my allotment much lately. Only popped on passing to drop off a bag of kitchen straps in the compost bin. You've been ill, so don't blame me for not being down the allotment, of course. But yeah, spring is just round the corner. As I said, I feel like the big tidy up is now going to be well underway. Digwell, if you cross a sheep with a kangaroo, do you get a woolly jumper? You do. Yes, indeed you do. So did I know, Nigel. How does it get in such... Oh, talking about the big tidy up, of course. Yeah. Not sure how quick it rots, but could used pillowcases be as grow bags? Depends what the pillowcase is made of. I used pillowcases to try... it goes in with what we're talking about next week, feeds and fertilizers. I used pillowcases with loads of comfrey in them, tied them off and put them in my water butt. And a year later, they were still absolutely... I mean, they stunk and they were dirty, but they didn't rot or anything. So, yeah. Pillowcases can work and don't rot down at all quickly. Rebecca says the beast from the east is rumoured to return in March. Just what us gardeners don't need. No, we don't need it. I'm just want to get in and do some gardening. I'm fed up of everything looking dull. Is my word. Dull is the way to describe it at the moment. Dull. Allotment cleanup don't start me. It's amazing how much stuff you gather over a season. Absolutely. I've got 3 bags to go to the tip, which I'm hoping to do next weekend. Now, you were requested, and I've done it, the grow along for ginger, and I've made a little video about that. Right, it's grow along time. Now, it was decided that we were going to grow ginger this week, and This is the root of ginger that I'm actually growing. This came from a pack from Wilco's, but it is possible. Run to a supermarket, it's probably a lot cheaper as well, and go and buy some ginger and you can plant that. What you're really looking for, if you want to know if it's going to survive, is that sort of little bit of white nodule. That's a sign that it's going to grow. It's not expensive to buy ginger, but this should do pretty well. Now, I've actually soaked this last night in water just to rehydrate the root, the ribosome, because that is what this is. And it's going into this quite largish container of multi-purpose compost. Place it just like that. There we go. And then over the top, we're just going to add some more multi-purpose compost. It doesn't need to be overly thick. You're looking just sort of below the surface, really. There we go. Now, ginger is a tropic plant. It does come from the equatorial regions, India, I believe, particularly. So it is not going to do well outside. It is possible to grow outside, but really, I treat my ginger like a houseplant. So I keep it actually growing on my kitchen windowsill, and I've been growing ginger for a number of years now. It's a really good, nice one to grow if you are into your own homegrown food. It's a nice one to grow, and it does really, really well. What will happen as it warms up, it will put up some stems and some leaves, and that's when you know you have got ginger growing. But like I say, keep it indoors or somewhere warm unless you've got a heated greenhouse. In terms of care, like I say, plenty of water. Not so worried about feed as such. There's plenty in the multi-purpose compost, but as it gets older and older, replenish the compost. You will harvest it in about 9 months' time, so save some of that root to replant, and you should end up being able to get plenty of ginger growing on. Anybody who's seen my past videos will know that I've had ginger grown well, harvested it by accident when I thought it was turmeric. So yeah, good one to grow ginger. I think if you can do it, please do go and check it out, and we'll keep an eye on this and see what happens. Right, back to the studio. Oh, I forgot what I was doing for a minute there. Yeah, so that is the ginger planted up. I think it was Ballycene who was requesting it. As I say, it is a warm plant. It does need to be indoors, really. In the summer, it can go outside, but I keep mine on the windowsill for it to grow. You can buy the little ribosomes from Wilco's, or you can just run to a supermarket and buy some ginger. Just make sure it's plump and stick it in water overnight so that it can reabsorb some of that water. As I said, I've grown ginger for a number of years. I actually had an email from one of my listeners who plants her ginger inside like storm lanterns, so and keeps it on the windowsill still, but it almost creates like its own mini greenhouse, and that does really well as well. So you might want to think about doing that as well. Nicholas says perhaps your pillowcases were polycotton. It probably was. It probably was. It worked, is all I know. And Rebecca says, brought my ginger today from Wilco, so should be good to compare with you, Richard. I will plant it tomorrow. Yeah, please do, and let me know how it gets on. I didn't update you with all the seedlings that we've sown in the past, just purely out of time, but I'm going to do that next week, so you get a good idea of what we've been sowing in the past and what's happening where. Anybody got any suggestions for a seed to sow next week for the grow along? Completely up to you guys what I sow. We'll just keep following it throughout the year and see what happens with it. Ballycine says, Greg's, I think he was one of the ones that suggested ginger. And Anna says, I was given a ginger plant as a present once. It was absolutely clobbered by red spider mite on the windowsill. It's not a problem I've had myself. But yeah, that's not good. That's not good. Chili Phil says, we're growing ginger, but from a supermarket. Be good to compare as we grow along. Yeah, that would be good to see, actually. I've still got some ginger in pots from previous plantings, i.e. that one that I harvested on a video and thought was turmeric. So we're hoping that that is going to also grow and produce some good ginger too. You can never have you can never have enough ginger is the sort of theory I'm going with at the moment. I love ginger. I use it a lot in cooking, as I'm sure many people do if you are into your cooking. So trying to grow our own is definitely going to be something we'd do. Would you recommend a heat map for the ginger? You probably would benefit from it, but no, I would say it's it's not necessary if it's indoors, unless you're a very cold house that has no heating, etc., etc. Even then, as I said, I think I said India in that, but I think I got that wrong. I think ginger is actually originally from Jamaica. I've seen it growing in the wild in the Caribbean, if I remember correctly. So, um, if anybody that's been to the Caribbean will know it's very warm in the summer in there. So it does benefit from a bit of heat, but the winters can also still be quite chilly. As long as it's not below freezing, it should be okay. But yeah, let me know what you would like me to sow next week in the grow along. And as I said, next week, feeds and fertilizers. What feeds do you use and why and how? Um, how do you remind yourself when to feed and etc., etc.? Lots of things that we have um, ideas from. Chili Phil says ginger is grown in India. That's where we get ours from. I I think it originated from the Caribbean. I got confused. I get confused sometimes. I thought it was India, then I thought it was the Caribbean because I remember seeing it growing in the Caribbean in the wild. Um, and I didn't have time to fact check everything, as you can imagine. But yeah, it's that sort of region, that hot region where it grows. In fact, you got me thinking now. You got me thinking. Was is it the jungles? Oh, I can't remember. I can't remember off the top of my head. Um, Chili Phil, I work for a spice company. Yeah, you probably are right then. It may not be where it originates from, but it's where it grows as well now. Um, it's like potatoes; they grow in the UK, but originated from South America. So, um, I always think it's. I personally believe it's always best to find out where the plants originate from, because that's where the plant is going to grow best. Digwell says it originated in maritime Southeast Asia, so yeah, near closer to India than the Caribbean. So I was right the first time, and then I confused myself by thinking the Caribbean. Although I'm sure I've seen it growing in the wild in the Caribbean. Perhaps just escaped and grew well. Um, maritime Southeast Asia. So yeah, it all makes sense. But you get the idea. It's that warm region that it does well. Whether it's ginger native to Southeast Asia and southern China, so all down that way. Um, Rebecca says, I was just about to say, let's ask Digway. There's so much knowledge on these things. Yeah. I could actually tab it in, and search, but I don't like doing that when I'm trying to talk as well. As I said, fact checking sometimes. Somebody in the Facebook group has joined and says, evening all, good evening to you. Got about 15 minutes to go tonight, and we've been talking about what gardening trends are for 2023. I'm seeing, well, I've said what I thought. I think there's going to be a big change. Oh, big advances this year, I feel, because I feel we've just got over the COVID. Since 2020, I feel everything's stagnated, but this year, especially going to this event in London, it suddenly feels like it's going back to normal and everything is going to be moving forward. I have added a link if anybody wants to zap themselves in. Digwell says, Ginger lives just round the corner from me. I also believe he left the UK, went to Canada for a bit, and then down to somewhere else, wasn't it? Oh no, I'm thinking of somebody else. Sorry, of somebody who went by the name of Ginger that left and went. Um, yeah, Yeah. Anyway, move on from that. So yeah, Digwell has come in. For me, 2023 will be about finding a good compost. That's going to be a subject that I think we're going to have to delve into in a couple of weeks' time. Good compost. This is something that I've also been wondering about myself, because there is so much choice of compost and the price as well. We've got to factor in the price. So, for example, some of the is it Delfoot, the really good compost? I look at the price of that and I just think I cannot justify spending that much money on that compost compared to when we make it ourselves, um, or what we can buy. I mean, as I said, we've got the Wix compost, we've got the Wilco compost, which for not much money, really. I think the Wilco's compost is the cheapest I've seen for around £4 or £5 for about 50 litres. Tesco's were doing a deal on one brand of compost. I think it was Miracle Grow, where you could buy two for £8 with a club card. Those are the things that make it affordable. But then some of the really good compost might cost you twice as much. Is it worth the extra expense? That's going to be a question we're going to ask in a couple of weeks' time. Compost. What compost do you use, etc., etc. Next week, feeds and fertilizers, as I've said. Chris Fisher-Taylor has said, random question, but has anyone tried producing their own sweet potato slips and growing them on? Any success? Excuse me. Good question, Chris. And thank you for the seed potatoes you sent me. Really appreciate that. If you look in the Facebook group for Jenny, you will see that she has been producing her own sweet potato slips, and they are doing quite well. I have tried in the past, but I've never been successful. The sweet potatoes seem to rot before they actually proved anything or produced any slips. I'm going to give it another try, but I've not been lucky myself. Moneyboot says from 2023 will for me will be readjusting quantities of each variety that I grow. More of some, less of others. Yeah, potatoes is always the big one for me. I always grow what I think is too many potatoes until I harvest them, and then I think I need more. Alison says, did you say hello to Ginger Lynn Digwell? Or did you knock down Ginger on the old doorstep? I don't get how Rocket Growers $9.99 plus delivery from them, but only £7 in my local garden centre. Weird. I've not seen them in my local garden centre. I'm gonna have to pop in and have a look. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen them anyway. But listen, I'm really pleased with my compost I'm getting from my bins this year. Saves me a lot of money. Yes, I'm with you. I try and try and make as much compost as I possibly can. I can just never produce enough compost for it to be worthwhile, or produce enough compost for it. It gets used up so quickly. That's why I built that big one on the allotment to try and produce a lot of it. We're going to be building more compost bins in the future. Stuart says, I spend more on compost than any other products at school. If I didn't get freebies, it would be very hard every year to sow all the seeds we want to. I'm hoping to get another year delivery of free stuff this week. Yeah, I'm with you. Compost, for me, is one of the biggest outlays. That and wood at the moment. But compost, for me, is one of the biggest outlays, which is why I'm trying to make as much of my own as possible. Anything that can be composted is going to be composted to try and build it up. Nigel says, I reckon they are set up for selling to trade. I had the same issue with Garland. I went to the factory and the product was dearer than I could buy from eBay. Yeah. This is a dilemma I have as well. I pretty much always buy my compost from a garden centre because it is cheaper, unless you bulk buy, of course, than get it online. Same here, Nigel. No more growing for other people at work now. No kale for smoothies, etc. I do like a good smoothie. Do like a good smoothie. I haven't had a smoothie for a while now. I'm going to, talking of smoothies, you're going to make me want one when I get in. Um, yeah, I'm going to be growing a lot more kale this year. I've decided I never produce enough kale, so this year is all about growing more and more kale. Um, that and a few of the other brassicas, the cauliflowers, the cabbages, um, Brussels sprouts. We always seem to be able to pull off without too many problems. But yeah. Julia Hartley has joined. Good evening, Richard and lovely viewers. Smoothies are lush. Yep, we could do with some smoothies right now, actually. I was saying this the other day. Whenever I drink a smoothie, I suddenly feel incredibly healthy and ready to take on the world. I don't know if it's psychological, but there's something about it. Guessing, but made approximately 1,500 litres of compost. That's a lot. That's a lot. I've got to get for the new veggie pod that's going up 400 litres of compost to go in a new veggie pod. That's a lot of compost I've got to get hold of. Frozen spinach is nice in smoothies. Indeed it is. And Alison is giving us the thumbs up as well. Yeah, I could really do fancy a smoothie when I get in now. I don't think we've actually, we've got some mango. We've got some other stuff. We've probably got a lot of stuff in the freezer I can make a smoothie with. Yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing when I finish this in just a few short minutes. It's been an interesting chat tonight, I've got to say. I do think it's interesting, the developments that are the trends that seem to be going on. And I do think there are particularly big changes, especially with the batteries, that are going to become more and more relevant this year in the garden trade. Julia says, same here, Richard, feeling harmlessly healthy after having a smoothie. My favourite is strawberry and banana. Yeah. When I was really getting into making smoothies, I used to make my own, what's it called? It's like a fermented milk. Kefir. That's it. I used to make my own kefir. And I used to make that regularly and then use that to make the smoothies. I felt so healthy afterwards. Rebecca says, what's our homework? I forgot. It's simply to take a picture of your garden allotment on the first of the month. As you know, we're trying to build up a picture and see the changes throughout the year. So this is an easy one. Seems everyone can get behind this one. So all good. Nigel, Richard, those two D-handle shovel and spades behind you, I had similar from my late father. They were made from Elwell, made by Elwell. These ones, I've had these. These are very, very old ones. My favourite spades and shovels. This is diamond blue. It's diamond blue. This it says etched into the wood, etched into the metal. Sorry. Let me put that back up there. Sorry about the noise. I do like wooden handled tools, though. Do like my wooden handled tools. Nicola, don't put too much fruit in smoothie. Not good for blood sugar levels. Yeah. I mean, I do like fruit in my smoothies. My blood sugar levels aren't too bad, so I can get away with it. I would like to say a big thank you to all the people who contacted me about donating items to our schools. So thank you all, Sis Stewart. Indeed, yeah, please do. Great to see. Juices are even worse. Heaven juices are even worse. I think that's the smoothie manufacturer. Steve Digwell, need to make with veg in smoothies. Yeah, love a cucumber smoothie as well. That's a nice one. 10 new handles and 4 new blades. Classic. Indeed. Yeah. The odd triggers broom, isn't it? Where everything gets changed. And in that time, I've had 4 new handles and 2 new brooms, even though it's the same. Well, it is the same same broom in all that time. Same with the spades and the shovels, etc., etc., etc. I'm trying to think, was there anything I have missed out from the other day that I feel is a trend for 2023? I don't think it is. I think we've just sort of summarized everything now. Yeah, I cannot think of anything else that we have to finish it up. But yeah, I'm going to be, as I said, we'll go back to these woolen sock things. We will be trialing those out throughout this year and see how they get on, whether they actually work, how long they last, whether the plants grow okay in them. Same with the Horty wool, in the hanging baskets. That's a given. We're going to be doing that without any worries. Yeah, I think that is just about sums everything up. Hopefully, we'll get the barbecue going soon. We'll be able to do a bit more outdoor cooking because I do like my outdoor cooking. As you know, I do wish I could still have a barbecue on the allotment. We just goes against the rules now, so I can't do that. It's a big shame because I did like having a barbecue down on the allotment. Highgrave Gas says another great week's chat. Thanks, Richard and everyone. I'm in the Alps next week, so don't know what the signal will be like, but we'll try to join anyway. Oh, well, you have a nice time in the Alps. I'd love to see some photos from there. That would go down well. Turbo Street, thanks, Richard. As always, have a great week, everyone. Nicola says another great chat, Richard, and all. Thank you. TTFN, everyone says dig well, and Muddy Boots says enjoy. I think that's a skiing sign at the end of that. Yeah, it has been another really good chat, I've got to say. Lots of interesting discussion going on and lots of great feedback coming back from you. It does seem, as Rebecca says, it's gone so quick tonight. Really enjoyed the chat this evening. I'll get on with my homework, ginger, and photos. Did you work out what you wanted me to sew next week? That's what I suddenly realised. I don't know. I might have to come up with something just on instead. So unless somebody in the next few seconds, first person I see that suggests a seed to sow next week is what we'll sow next week for the grow along. So get your comments in, and that's what we will do. Next week, feeds, fertilizers, what anything you want. Rebecca is asking what our choices. Anything you want, anything that you want me to say, we will do next week. Yeah, feeds, fertilizers, that's the subject for next week. That's going to be a lot of fun. And Ballysillians came in with celery. That's a good one. Celery. Yeah. Turbo Stream says, sow some seeds, Richard. Celery, that's a good one, Ballysillian. Yes, we'll do celery next week. Absolutely. Right, guys, I'm going to pack up and get out of here and get ready for another week at work. So you take care, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been good to have a chat as always. And I'll see you next week.